Hello and welcome to episode 55 of the Dynamo Football Book Club. My name's Alistair Bond and I'm joined by a man who regularly refers to himself in the third person, Johnny Coughlin. Johnny, how are you?
Johnny is good. How are you?
Alistair is fine. This week we are doing Once in a Lifetime, the story of the New York Cosmos by Gavin Newsham.
But I think that may do it. I think that might have been corner kick, in fact. The whistle blows. The ball is it over and it's over. The Cosmos are the champions of North America. The first team ever. And Pelé.
So, Johnny, New York Cosmos.
Finally.
You hear that name? What do you think?
The stars.
The glitz, the glamour, Pelé.
But cosmos is the firmament, the stars above our heads and all the rest. That's what it means, right?
It means the New York Cosmopolitans, Johnny. Already lamer than you think.
Yeah, it is lamer. And they were so excited about the name, weren't they?
Well, in the book, very quickly, the writer goes, but what will they name them? All the good names are gone. The Giants, the Knicks, the Yankees, the Mets. All right, Giants is a good name. Knicks is literally an abbreviation of Knickerbockers, which is the worst name in sport, like the New York Knickerbockers. And the New York Metropolitans, I mean, sometimes I'll give you American names have like tigers and stuff. Good, wow, good, scary. A metropolitan, imagine encountering a metropolitan on a dark night alley. Oh, or even it's a Knickerbocker. Hello.
What is it? What is a knickerbocker?
Fancy pantaloons, right?
Is that yeah, is that what it is? A knickerbocker glory, of course, as well. It's an ice cream of sorts.
Yeah, I've never reconciled the two, and we're not going to do it now.
The Nebraska Cornhuskers. That was one that stood out to me. I think it's Nebraska.
I still think better than Knickerbocker.
Knickerbockers is shocking, isn't it? Is that because that's what they wore playing basketball, like long shorts? Is that what it is?
I can only imagine. Yeah, I should imagine that's why. I was like, there's nothing else you could call those lads other than the fancy pants that they're wearing. Look at those Knickerbockers.
all the good names are gone. Anyway, okay, yeah, the Cosmos is a great name.
It is. And, Cosmopolitan does actually engender who they were, because this was an incredibly cosmopolitan team thrust upon America. And they were very much the cream of the North American Soccer League, which is basically what this book is about.
Right, they played in the North American Soccer League, the NASL, and they were described by one of the many football administrators in this book as the best and the worst thing to have the NASL, because they were the ones who, they had all the money, for one thing. They're owned by Warner Brothers.
Yep.
And they were really bankrolled by them, which meant that they could bring in huge names, which is very much their approach to popularizing popularizing football. Soccer in America was to bring in huge names, namely Pelé, to get eyeballs on the thing. And we can maybe touch on it later about whether or not that was the correct approach. If the Dynamo Football Book Club would have done it differently, but that's very much their approach. And again, maybe it set a standard or an approach for other teams that was difficult to follow, because one team had Pelé, then another team wanted Johan Cruyff, another team wanted George Best. But then they were playing with total no marks. Then so it's kind of funny kind of situations, weren't they? I guess you had your franchise player, as they like to say in America, and then fellas who were playing for Leighton Orient.
Well, that's it. There were some huge names brought in, but as is posited by people in this book, none of them had any value whatsoever in the United States, apart from Pelé. And it's said at one point that Pelé cost the New York Cosmos £3 million. Now, $3 million. Now, thinking in New York, the 1970s, it's an astonishing amount of money. Gerd Muller was brought over, and he cost $1.5 million. But the thing is, Gerd Muller is known to the likes of you and me, but in America, nobody knew who the fuck Gerd Muller was. Nobody knew who he was. So he has no cachet at all. So basically, it's a £1.5 million down the drain. Whereas Pelé is Pelé, right? Everyone knew Pelé. Pelé was the face of soccer. It seems to me he was the only player brought in from abroad who actually had any value whatsoever.
Well, that is, of course, until your friend
This book is about the cosmos, and it's about a lot of men with a lot of big egos, but no player has a bigger ego than the star striker of the cosmos. And in cosmos history, far more important than Pele, Giorgio Chinaglia. Giorgio Chinaglia is the most important person in this book, alongside Steve Ross, who is the CEO of Time Warner, who basically bankrolls the whole operation.
Right, and the book, how it's written, it's almost like a biography of a part of Ross's life. He is the vehicle kind of through which the Cosmos story is told. And he's kind of very much the architect of the Cosmos, isn't he? He's the one who comes along, decides he wants to do it. He's the head honcho at Warner, so he gets Warner to just essentially pay for his. It sounds like it's a hobby of his, but it's not really, because this man who's his hobby is to succeed, right? He wants this. He desperately wants this to succeed, and he is the one who very much pines for Joneses for Pele. As the book goes on, Chinaglia takes an increasing center stage. And by the end of it, he owns the Cosmos himself, or at least he runs the Cosmos, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, by the end of it, absolutely. He is the biggest figure in cosmos history, whereas, of course, in the eyes of the world, it's Pele. So the New York Cosmos was founded by Steve Ross, the CEO of Time Warner, or Warner Brothers as it was at the time, and Ahmet and Nasui Ertegun, who were the founders of Atlantic Records. And they first met Pele at a record label, Bash. And that's how they first got in contact with Pele. So they set this up, and this was an incredible pipe dream to try and lure Pele, who had never played for any team other than Santos and Brazil, to the United States to play in what was a failing soccer league in a pathetically embarrassing stadium.
Meadowlands.
But they did it. Oh, it's the Richter Stadium at first, right? His first game was Richter Stadium.
All right, and they flew him over the pitch in a helicopter, and they had someone paint the pitch green because it was like covered. There was like tarmac and things sticking out.
Well, in
But
his first game, he came off the pitch and complained that maybe he'd suffered some sort of complaint because his leg was green, but it was just the paint coming off the grass.
but there was a nice little fact in the book that the Brazilian Parliament had passed a law making Pele unexportable at one point. He wasn't allowed to leave the country. He was being detained by order of by the Parliament.
Well, that's right, and that's always the stick used to beat Pele. It's like, well, he scored a lot of goals in Brazil, didn't he? But didn't do it in Italy, did he? We don't know. Did he do it in Spain? Well, he wasn't allowed to. The
He
Brazilian
wasn't
government
allowed.
literally wouldn't let him leave.
Yeah,
And I got to tell you, Pele comes across lovely in this book, doesn't he? Pele comes across as a really nice bloke.
yeah. Honestly, Pele. There's something about Pele. You never found him that interesting. But in this book, he is not only is he cool, he's lovely.
He's really lovely, and he's described as being able to sleep on a washing line, which is a
Yeah,
gift, isn't it? Oh God,
yeah.
if I could just fall asleep. Oh,
I know. Yeah, he would just roll up wherever they were going, and he would sleep until they got there. Now that is an incredible skill.
the founder of the Cosmos was a chap called Steve Ross, who, as I say, was the CEO of Time Warner. Now, this is a huge figure, and this is a character who is described by Steven Spielberg as saying, "Steve is how I wish my father was," which is about the nicest thing you can say about a man, right? I
Yeah.
think it's about the nicest thing. I wish my dad was like you. And also, the film Schindler's List was dedicated to Stephen Ross by Spielberg. His name was originally Rechnitz, and his families were migrants from Jewish migrants from Europe.
He wanted to use the Cosmos as some kind of vehicle to promote Warner at the same time. And this is why, I guess, ultimately you had Robert Redford and Mick Jagger and these people in in the stadium watching matches. Oh, by the way, sorry, before we go any further, let me just state that this book was recommended by my brother, my, bro, my brother Barry,
Barry.
to my brother Barry, and I'm wearing a California Surf shirt, one of the other NASL teams, and that was also a gift from my brother Barry. I think this is the second gift by Barry that we've talked about on this podcast. So well done, Barry, on the gifts. Keep them coming, I say. But yeah, thanks for the recommendation on the book. Um, but did you think, by the way, that was the guy, the author, Gavin Newsham, not, I assume, the governor of California, was he, do you think he was bullshitting at different points in the book? He was letting on like the Cosmos were like so big in the papers, at least, in the kind of tabloid press, that they were as big as anyone, even if they weren't such a draw for the American sports fans. They were for the lurid yellow rag press. Did you think that was kind of bullshit?
Yeah, he said when like the Yankees won the '77 like World Series, we had to share the back page of the New York newspapers with stories about the Cosmos, and I was like, "Are you sure about that?" But it's difficult to know now. So essentially, this story is about a bunch of men with huge egos: Amit and Nisui Ertegun, Steve Ross, Pelé, Franz Beckenbauer, but as we said before, none more so than Giorgio Chinaglia, who was an Italian born in Tuscany in 1947, and at the age of 8, he moved to Cardiff, where he was raised. He played 6 games for Swansea, made his way back to Italy, made his way up to Lazio, and become one of their most legendary strikers. Now, during a tour of estates with Lazio, he started buying real estate in America. This is a lad who had ideas. He presented himself to the Cosmos, always insisted on being signed, and from that point onwards becomes the most important player in Cosmos history.
And
In terms of play, as his effect on the pitch, much, much more so than Pelé. Pelé was only there for 2 or 3 seasons.
a madman, right? A crazy man.
An absolutely crazy man, yeah, who would refer to himself in the third person, as referred to earlier in the episode. This is a man who basically, if you were his manager and you dropped him, you were done.
Yeah.
You were done. You
He
would be
got about
sacked within.
4 managers sacked by my count.
Yeah, they had the audacity to drop him once, and that's it. They were gone. And they tried a variety of different managers. They tried English managers, Spanish managers to try and placate him. But this lad, he knew what he liked.
What did you
And in
like?
the end, he sort of installs himself as manager in the 80s, right?
Well, he becomes the CEO towards the end when the thing is really coming apart. They kind of implied here that he might have been a front for the mob, but he bought the Cosmos and Lazio as a front for unnamed Italian American businessmen involved in property, the real estate business. Hello, tell me more. Are they involved in waste disposal? What is it that Tony Soprano says? Waste management?
Yeah, that's it. Waste management. Well, there is that. There certainly is that inference. And the lad was actually, he never, after the 1990s, he never returned to Italy because he was wanted for so many crimes. But he died in Naples, Florida. So he had to go. Yeah, Naples, close enough. But the
Yeah.
reason he was never dropped is right here. He played 213 games for the New York Cosmos and he scored 193 goals. Fucking hell. He was
Mm.
pure dynamite.
Yeah. Al, sorry to derail you a bit there, but you live in America.
Yes, I do.
And so I guess the story of the NASL is the story of football in America up to the 80s. And football, soccer was, I guess it found its place on the sports map on the back of this story. But it fell off that map. But football is now more popular than baseball in America, both in terms of playing and watching, I think. So you tell me, in the time that you've been there, how long have you been in America?
8 years now.
And have you noticed a change in that period?
Yeah, I'd say it's tangibly more popular now than it was 8 years ago. I mean, I live in the Orlando area and you see Orlando City shirts everywhere. Everywhere. But I kinda sort of think they give them away for free a bit as well. I mean, I've got I've got a few, and I don't know, I've never bought one, that's for sure. Um, my thing with American soccer is the problem with it is it's a bit like Ireland, is how are you ever gonna get a big league going in your own country when everyone in America who loves soccer probably has a European team. Almost all of them do. They all have European teams. It's like, why would the League of Ireland ever get big when everyone supports Man United and Liverpool? And I feel that a bit way here in America as well. Because
Well,
guess
maybe
what?
not.
Everyone in America supports fucking Liverpool too. Everybody does. Fucking Liverpool.
Really?
Everywhere you go.
Oh, God. What would need to happen is they would need very identifiable American players. But I suppose the problem is if an American player is any good, he'll be gone.
It's a feeder league, right? Maybe that's what they expect from it. Hopefully they can get players who are good enough to be sent across to Europe.
I saw something recently that the biggest international audience now for Premier League football is in America.
Yeah, well, I can believe it. I mean, I had one. Well, it's absolutely. I mean, it's easy to watch here, and I don't know. Yeah, I get to talk about soccer a lot. I mean, obviously, I try to talk about it as well, but people come to me and they want to talk about it all the time.
And
I'd say it's very, very popular. I doubt it's as big as baseball. Look at the money the baseball players get paid, but I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right.
are there particular types of people that follow football?
Oh, it's definitely, yeah, like a liberal domain,
It is, yeah.
follower in the United States. Yeah, absolutely. Like it's not. We call it fairy ball. No flopping. Look at the flopping. That's what he does. Oh, flopping. Getting over it, America. Look, look, flop. He flopped. He flopped. He flopped. I can't bear this, man. I can't watch it. I can't watch it. Like I had an argument at Christmas with my uncle Terry on my wife's side, and he was like, he had the audacity to say, "I can't watch soccer. I just can't stand around watching like people doing nothing for 90 minutes." And we're watching American football. Like literally, no one's doing anything. There's like 12 minutes of action in 4 hours. Like there's 3 hours and 48 minutes of them doing nothing. Like but when they do something, they're doing something good. They're running into each other. Like, all right, fair enough, fair enough. I don't hate gridiron, but yeah,
Yeah,
the only thing I get really sensitive about football, you come at me, I'll come back.
because in the book they said that it was very much as it would have been described at the time, football was viewed as you say, a fairy sport and a commie sport. Al, very exciting.
Oh yeah, it's very communist, isn't it, football? Yeah.
Look at Infantino, that commie scumbag.
Today, I am a communist.
Well, to quote a nice Kissinger line from the book, the politics of soccer makes me nostalgic for the politics of the Middle East. That's a heck of a line.
What the fuck's Kissinger doing there? Yeah, it was
He's German.
something, wasn't it?
He's German, isn't he?
Yeah, I will take your word for that, Johnny. That is
He's
definitely your area of expertise.
He's European. He's a
Well, I
football-
recognise him from The Simpsons, and I know he was.
What was he? Secretary of State? Was he National Security Advisor to Nixon or something like that? Okay, but sorry, I derailed things there. But okay, the big kind of play for Ross was to get the big name, and the big name being Pele. And I guess when you've got the might, okay, it's the plucky National American Soccer League trying to draw the world's biggest sports person on a par with Ali was said at the time. But plucky old the NASL also happened to have the might of Warner behind it. So it's not as plucky. It's like saying the plucky crown prince of Saudi Arabia trying to get Cristiano Ronaldo. How did you manage to tempt him? So they get their man, and that is pretty interesting. They really pursued him, right? And this was the strategy. They needed to get a name, but significantly, he was the only one that Americans knew, right?
Well, that's right. Yeah, that's why he was the only one with any real value. It's like they bring over George Best, but no one in America knew who George Best was. They didn't. You just know Pele.
Yeah.
Number one player in the world, Pele. Everyone else didn't really have any value. But as you said at the start, the Cosmos were the worst and best thing to happen to them. They were best because they got eyes onto the league, but they're the worst because, as you say, other teams tried to recruit these huge names, i.e. Gerd Muller went to I don't know, where did Gerd Muller go? Minnesota or something ridiculous. Fort
Kickers, is
Lauderdale.
it?
Fort
Kickers.
Lauderdale Kickers, exactly right, which sounds very German, doesn't it? Yeah, imagine him turning up. Hey, everybody, it's Gerd Muller. Who the fuck is Gerd Muller? I don't know who that is.
Fort Lauderdale comes to a standstill. Their bomber has arrived.
Yeah, that's it. So no one else really had any cash, yet they still absolutely jizzed fucking millions on them. Like, Who's Johan Cruyff? I don't know this guy. Who's Niskins? Who is Beckenbauer? I mean, Beckenbauer was a success, but he didn't have the international, well, he didn't have the US recognition that someone like Pele did.
He's just also a more low-key kind of character, Beckenbauer. And by the way, you asked who's Neskins. Neskins is the guy who dresses woman on the airplane. That's who Neskins is. That's in the book for whatever reason. He dresses a woman for a particular flight towards the start of his Cosmos career. Someone said at the start everyone thought it was funny, but then they were kind of confused that he just kept going with it for the entirety of the whole trip.
At the end, it became uncomfortable.
On Fort Lauderdale, that's also where Gordon Banks played. And it says in the book that Gordon Banks, late in his career, was hit by a truck and he lost sight in one of his eyes. And he just kept, like, he was still good enough to play in America. Incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, well, big hands. He didn't need two eyes. His hands were so fucking massive. Like,
Well, he's famous, of course, for saving that header from Pelé.
yes, yeah, he was. Yeah, that save, that very, very average save that everyone
Very
talks
average.
about being amazing.
Very average save. Do you remember there was an amazing sticker book for the World Cup 90 for the World Cup in 1990? Do you remember it? It was a folder and you would buy inserts week to week for months and it made this massive binder and then into these different pages that you've bought individually, you would put the stickers. But anyway, there was a series of the best goals. They were like drawings of the goals. And I remember there was a
Really?
drawing of that particular save for whatever reason. But yeah, the drawing of the goals. It was. I remember Archie Gemmell. His goal was there, and he's sticking it like he volleyed it or whatever. And like Pele, where he put it over, like where he put it over his head and turned around and smashed it in the net. But it was just arrows and stuff of these drawings. It's pretty funny stuff. But did you have that World Cup sticker book, by the way?
My memory of sticker books is my mum and dad didn't really indulge me in that shit.
Mm.
Yeah, I never really had them, and I feel like I left out on something. The last World Cup, I bought a sticker book all for myself. They were to trade it with. And then I looked how much it would cost me to complete it if I didn't do any trades, and it was like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So I thought, fuck it. But I did have a very therapeutic 40 minutes sticking like the 6 packets that came with the book into it. I really did find that therapeutic.
Yeah.
If you look at my headphones now, these are Beats headphones, which is fairly cringeworthy. So I cut up and stuck a shiny Portugal badge over it. And so
Oh, really?
it's trendy. Yeah.
Well, just kind of briefly, maybe we'll talk about the Cosmos in terms of this on the sporting side of things. They were a success. They just kept winning the soccer ball over and over again, right?
Yeah.
Do you think
Yeah,
that?
they would win the soccer bowl. They were in the semi-finals of a soccer bowl at one point and lost the first leg 7-1 and still qualified because they didn't do aggregate scores. What the fuck? They won the second leg like 3-1 or something, and then they had a playoff. What the
Yeah.
fuck? You lost? Man,
Well, this
they
was
engineered it for them.
but this was one of the points I wanted to talk about. Was they would say we were the best in the regular season with 216 points. 200 and what? So like their system, and I think this is partly. I don't think the Americans at the time could accept football just for what it was. They had to tinker with it. And as we know through VAR, you're better off not tinkering with football. But they had lots of crazy rules. So they had offside at the 35-yard line.
And that was
If
because a lot of the games were played on American football pitches, which are much, much narrower. So they thought that would encourage attacking play because basically wingers were nullified on a pitch that narrow. Like an American football pitch is only like 60 yards wide. So they had like 10, 20 less yards to play with. So that was that. They also had penalty shootouts with the now famous you have 5 seconds to run from a certain point and score a goal.
yeah,
And that sounds like an absolute nightmare. And loads of games like, oh, that wasn't scored within 5 seconds. It's like, what the fucking hell? Like,
5
they just
seconds
need
is
to
not a
make that-
long time.
No, it's not, man. You'll fight. Yeah, it was.
As for Carlos Alberto, the coolest motherfucker going, he just walks out, kind of chips the ball up in the air and lets it go towards the keeper. And as the keeper rushes out, he just draws up and he just digs it over the keeper from whatever it is, 30 yards. But then they had a count down in the NASL rather than, what we're used to in terms of time. But they just tinkered with loads of stuff because I think they just felt like they had to. And I guess for Americans, the thing about football is there's not enough scores and they think nothing happens. And
Well,
it's not
nothing happens.
and it's not violent enough for them. They're the problems, right?
Flopping, man. It's the flopping. Get over it. But they need more break. There was one point where they were talking about how there was like televised games in the United States where the referee was holding an injured player down so they could complete the advertisements. Like, it's carry on, like, because they just needed to get the advert breaks in there. And obviously, football isn't geared towards that.
Yeah, so
Just
there's
on another interesting corporate side of things, the rise and fall of the New York Cosmos is also runs parallel with the rise and fall of Atari,
yeah.
the gaming system, which was acquired in the early 70s by Warner Brothers. And this is basically, they buy a $1 billion industry for 28 million quid. So basically, all throughout the 70s, they are flush with Atari cash and they can throw it at the New York Cosmos. And if there's one thing other than football I could do a podcast about, Johnny, is computer games. Yeah, I just thought that was absolutely fascinating. The end of the New York Cosmos coincided with the end of Atari, and they even bring up the ET game. Are you familiar with the ET game, Johnny? Have you ever heard about it?
No, I know nothing about computer games. So go on.
Well, very quickly. So it's referenced in the book in the early 80s. ET comes out and like Warner's like, got to jump on this, got to jump on this, and they pay like $30 million to acquire the rights to make an ET video game. I don't know what you know about game development, Johnny, but they have 4 weeks to make this game. Just for a bit of, I know it's a long time ago, but Rockstar Games have been working on Grand Theft Auto 6 for 16 years. So, yeah. So yeah, it was a very short time frame, and this game is the biggest flop in video gaming industry. And in the end, the games were famously buried somewhere in the Mojave Desert. It's a thing, like the location of all these ET games burial is kind of like a urban myth. But somewhere in the Mojave Desert is like hundreds of thousands of ET game carts for the Atari buried in the desert. I don't know why they're buried, but it's a thing. So this was a funny thing. So basically, as long as Atari flourished, they could afford to keep bankrolling the Cosmos. But when Atari faltered in the 80s and video games crashed, so did the Cosmos. So I personally, Johnny, being a bit of a video game guy, very interesting.
Well, I was wondering as the book went along, like I quite dimly in a way, it's like, why are they telling me so much about Atari? There's a lot about Atari in this book, and then Atari collapsed, and I was like, uh, that's why Atari is so important to this story. The Atari story is interesting, right? Because it was kind of cool and niche, and then Warner bought, and it was massive, but briefly, and then it just totally fell apart. And then
Yeah, briefly.
Commodore kind of cashed in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was famously a huge crash in video games in the early 80s. It was very much like the dot-com bubble and stuff like. There was something very similar to that. But yeah, just absolutely fascinating that, yeah, the new
But it was Ross.
side of
Just on the Atari point, it was Ross, Steve Ross, the same man who wanted to bring soccer to the masses in America. He went to Disneyland or whatever and his son was spending money on, I guess, like a video game. And he was like, "What's this?" And I said, "Well, this is this game I'm into." And he was like, "Okay, I'm going to go and buy that company." And he just went and bought the company. So, whereas his dream for soccer in America was ultimately kind of too soon, maybe. He got Atari really right, but the ET thing was totally his idea as well. So
Well, that's right. I mean, he sort of got it. He got them both right, right? They both burned very, very brightly, and then they fizzled out, only to become very successful again in the 90s.
yeah, and
He was ahead of his time.
Atari is kind of, I can imagine that, you would see Musk or someone like that wearing an Atari t-shirt. It's quite cool now, isn't it? And not that I'm saying Musk is cool, but
Yeah, literally the uncoolest man of the whole world. But yes. No, it does have, yeah, if I had an Atari t-shirt, I'd wear it.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. But in terms of the kind of arc of the story, there's not much of an arc really. The football is of middling quality. New York Cosmos are dominant. They bring this glitz and glamour when they play away at places like Minnesota or wherever. They draw a crowd that are not attending football otherwise. And then they win the soccer bowl various times, but then the whole thing just kind of crumbles on the back of, I suppose ultimately they had created this model where they were bringing in players, paying them a lot of money towards the end of their career, and they needed to make money for this to work. So they needed advertisement through broadcast TV, but that just never really happened. And over time, the interest waned. And I think they never got the American player that perhaps could have been the face of this thing. Maybe that's what could have been different for them.
Well, that's what America still needs to this day. A real superstar. Because like famously, what's his name? That dickhead at AC Milan, Pulisic. I don't know what magazine, but it might have been Sports Illustrated. And it was like Christian Pulisic, the LeBron of soccer. What, he's indisputably the best soccer player in the world. Not, he might be in the top 200 Sports Illustrated, but the LeBron, come on. I mean, just insane. Yeah, America to this day really, really needs a football superstar. And
Who's their who's their best ever player?
uh, I mean, it's Landon Donovan, right? I think it is. So they got some decent players scattered around the Premier League.
Mm.
But yeah, they don't have the superstar that they so desperately need, which is why they try and pretend that Christian Pulisic is the best player in the whole world.
LeBron. I said about the offside and the countdown, but they also had to Americanize everything with like the cheerleaders and laser beam shows out because football is not enough. There has to be, t-shirt cannons and laser beam shows.
I'm all for halftime entertainment, Johnny, because like 15 minutes is quite a long time. I always just like, what the fuck am I going to do for 15 minutes? I never want to go for a pint at halftime. I've just no interest in that. Yeah, give me some cheerleaders. They did do cheerleaders at Forest in the 90s, but they were like teenage girls. Maybe it just became very, very undignified. Yeah, I think they tried it for the half of it. So he's like, "Well, let's not do that anymore. That's that. No,
Oh
they're not ready for this. They're not ready for this. Get them away."
And the other
Yeah,
things
well,
they
yeah, Bugs Bunny. Yeah, Bugs Bunny bowling around at halftime. Like there was a chimp that would go around and provide entertainment.
well,
Up
the
for
last
story.
line in the book, Harold the Chimp, was unavailable for comment. That's how central Harold the Chimp was to the story of the New York Cosmos. They had him at the start, like that. That's he was there to entertain the crowd, but also a lot of games were played on AstroTurf, and I don't think you can't be taking shit seriously when you're playing football on AstroTurf. That's not really football, is it?
Bodo Glimt.
But they're in the Arctic Circle, Alan. In their defense, it might be hard to grow grass. But was it QPR? Someone in the English was it
No,
QPR?
in the old days, when I was a kid, top division, three teams: QPR, Luton, and Oldham. All top division teams. What have you all got in common?
Not, not anymore.
Yeah, currently residing in the Where Are They Now files. Drink. Like
That's it. Like it burned fast and it burned bright. The NASL and the Cosmos, but it was ultimately ill-fated. There's some fun characters there. As this guy Shep Messing, this goalkeeper who thought he would earn a few bucks on the side by posing nude for some magazine.
he's a real character, though, a real fun guy.
And he's written an autobiography. Yeah.
Yeah, the education of an American soccer player or something like that. If we can get hold of it, I'm in.
Yeah. So there was this one guy, his name was Steve Hunt, and he was playing with Pelé at the Cosmos, and then he returned to England to try get in the national team, and he went to play with Coventry. Like it's crazy. It must have been such a weird transition. What do I choose here? To live in New York or to play football with David Icke and for Coventry? Did he play for Coventry? He played for something like that.
He did
In
play for Coventry. Yeah, there's one lad who a manager just snuck off. He was like playing for Sheffield United, and he's like, "Do you want to double your money and play with Pelé?" Let me ask my wife. My wife says yes. Just as another fun fact, before this, before the NASL, they tried to make American soccer leagues, and they would just transplant English football teams over to an American city. So Wolverhampton Wanderers went over and played in an American soccer league in the '60s, and they became the LA Wolves. Stoke went over and were the Cleveland Stokers. Cleveland Stokers, come on, like, very
S-
good.
Can they do it on a wet night in Cleveland? A wet Tuesday night in Cleveland?
Exactly that. Exactly that. Oh, and the other interesting thing is the New York Cosmos were actually looking to join the MLS, because it's the biggest brand in American football by 1,000 miles, right? But they wouldn't join because the MLS has a collective agreement. So whereby your logo, your brand all becomes part of the MLS. They own it, like they do
Mm.
with basketball and stuff. And the owner of the brand, the New York Cosmos now, was Giorgio Chinaglia's, like, assistant. This guy called I haven't got his name, Pontin, I think. This little guy, Pontin, and he wouldn't let it join because he owned the rights to New York Cosmos. And in the book, it says this is so fucked up. It's like Jimmy Five Bellies owning the rights to Tottenham Hotspur because Gaza played for them. And I just thought, oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. I wish Jimmy Five Bellies did own the rights for Tottenham Hotspur. That would be great. They'd probably be better. But this is the warning tale for Saudi Arabia, right? So basically, this league did all right, although it was never profitable, as long as there were big, big stars playing there. But what happens when the big stars dries up, Saudi? What happens then? You keep importing them?
How long did they do that for? Because the Saudi league is never going to make money on its own, like in its own right, but not on that model. So how long are they willing to spend? Is it 400 million a year that Cristiano Ronaldo gets paid? He gets paid. It's $13 a second. He gets paid.
Yeah, I should think so. Bloody,
But
bloody.
like, how long are they willing to do that? At what point did they say, okay, that's fine? But then you see them, the amount of money they spoke on the golf. Here you go, Cameron Smith. There's $150 million for you.
I take fucking huge pride in not knowing the name of golfers. Jolly good. Spieth, is that one of them? Fuck off, Spieth. Got a name. So yeah, I mean, it was absolutely fabulous. I mean, it's so glamorous. The lads used to apparently like they wouldn't have to queue to get in Studio 54. You could be a bit part player at like the New York Cosmos, but you were cutting the line at Studio 54 and hanging out with Grace Jones, riding on a white horse with Lady Godiva. Just sounds amazing.
Yeah.
As I say, any player goes off to Saudi, boo. But I tell you what, you exchange the English second division for New York Cosmos, I take my hat off to you, sir. Yes, I do. I would definitely do the same.
Can you imagine the guy Steve Hunt when he goes to play in Coventry and then they're in whatever the Hound and Hare down in Coventry and they're like, he just must have just been going on and fucking on about New York. Well, in New York, this is what we're doing. We were doing this in New York, Must have been
Oh, yeah,
absolutely
you've got some drunk
insufferable.
dickhead, like, with his dick out, like, probably waving it in your face, and he's like, 18 months ago, I was sat next to Pelé and Beckenbauer, and now I've got this twat, like, with a pint glass on his freaking mouth. Yeah, horrible transition for them.
But that's it, Al. I've got no more. Anything else you want to add about the story of the Cosmos?
No, not really. Very interesting book. I really do feel I have an understanding of it now that I didn't. I understand how Pele ended up there and Beckenbauer in a way that I didn't really understand before. And Carlos Alberto, who's not really got much of a mention here, apart from, as you say, his penalty kick taking.
Well, whatever about the NASL? The Cosmos were more of a cultural phenomenon, it seems, than a sporting one.
Yeah, that's it. They were never very good. They travelled all the time to all over the world to play exhibition games, and generally would lose a lot of them, especially when they weren't playing on plastic pitches.
They lost
But
7-1 to Rennes in France.
it was at Lille. I think it was Lille.
Was it Leo? Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I mean, that's it. They could get spanked by anyone. They could beat anyone, but get spanked by anyone. But
Yeah.
yeah, but it just a very interesting story.
Yeah, it was a great story, and it was well told. I think maybe it's a cautionary tale for Saudi. It might also be a bit of a cautionary tale for teams like Manchester United that are just stacked with these sports executive administrator types, because there seem to be an awful lot of those in the cosmos. And my criticism of the book is it maybe was a bit heavy on the various boring people running the cosmos. There could have been less of that, I felt.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of chief executive officers and financial officers and
But that's because they were
so on.
who the sources were, weren't they? They had maybe less. Like he didn't sit down with Pele for this book. He sat down with, the junior assistant to the senior vice president or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, so maybe who knew that the makeup of the Man United is wrong at the moment? Oh, it's going well, isn't it? He won 3.
Well, it's going fantastically well now, but up until 2 weeks ago, it was
In spite of your Brailsworths and your big gyms, right? In spite of that.
yeah, the brave Michael Carrick. Yeah, okay. Also, what would you give this book? And
Well, very, very informative. I found the writing a little dry. He could have brought it up at Bevel Live. 7.5. Well, we're stuck at 7.5. I'll give it 7. 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. Very
and every
interesting.
time you insist on giving a score out of 10, I have to remind you that we score books out of 5. This is not the
Oh,
NASL.
okay, so that's 4 halfway 5-second penalties out of 5.
Yeah, yeah. I would give it. Yeah, I'm going to give it 3.5. I thought, as you say, I really liked it. It was very interesting. I thought it was a bit dry, and I think the stuff around the footballers was a little bit more at a bigger remove, I felt. And I would have liked more Pele. I would have liked more. Like Beckenbauer was there for whatever. He was there for 3 or 4 years. And there's very little about Beckenbauer in the book.
No, there was just one bit where Woody Allen recognised him, and that was it.
Yeah.
And now that would
But
be a badge of shame. I don't know. I don't know.
But no, it was a very good book, and we have, this is the year of the World Cup, and then, it's the second in our lifetime that's been in America, and my God, has it changed? So it's interesting to be reading about the development of football this year, because it's going to. In the book, they describe how America tried to get the World Cup on short notice in 1986 when Colombia couldn't host it as they were expected to, but Mexico ended up getting it.
And the writer is outraged by that, by the way. Outraged. Like, apparently America couldn't organise it like Mexico. Yeah, he's really annoyed about that.
But I guess it was 94 was supposed to be transformative for soccer in America. So I wonder, I guess we'll see. We'll see. And it's going to be interesting, It's going to be very interesting because if we're there, it's kind of in a bit of a, it might be news to you, Al, but America's pretty big news over here right now.
There really is. There something going on? I'm not really watching the news.
Yeah.
Anything? Oh, I don't know. Well, in America, it's marginal gains, Johnny. I mean, it's a long way off American football or college football, but the others, it's sneaky, sneaking up.
And I think significantly, it's becoming very popular as a game that people play.
I think it was always the case. Even back then, it said like 3 million people, 3 million kids play football every week in America. Because it's easy, isn't it, Johnny? It's easy. What do you need to play football? A ball. Nothing else. What do you need to play American football? Have you got your shoulder plates, Carpenter? Tyler, where's your helmet? Did you mark the lines? No. But football, the world sport. I don't know. No, thank you very much.
Yeah, take that, other sports. Fuck you, other sports.
God, why'd you even bother? Ridiculous. We should do a rugby podcast one day, Johnny. Just why rugby shit. Or like a shit sports draft.
Shit sports draft. The worst sports.
I'm going rugby first. All right.
But okay, 3.5 5-second penalties and 4.5 and 4 5-second penalties.
No,
Thank you very much.
3.5. It's a 7 out of 10 book. It's a 7. Yeah, okay, 3.5. You did.
Shall we do Pele's book next, assuming we can get it?
Yes, absolutely. I bet
Pele's
that's
book.
fucking
I-
long.
The abridged version of Pele's book, which is which is presumably called Pelé.
Yeah, well, seeing we've already done the American years, we're going to cut that bit out. Uh, we'll just do his part in Brazil, his career in Brazil, and then his part as an erectile dysfunction spokesman. You ever see those adverts of Pelé? Many men suffer from erectile dysfunction, not Pelé, but other men do,
Is he saying not?
and it's very bad.
Is he saying not Pelé?
I'm pretty absolutely sure there's a point where he makes sure that the world knows that not him, but other men do, and there's nothing to be ashamed of, or that Pelé does not suffer from erectile.
I'm asking for a friend.
These nice people who represent a lot of men who suffer, unlike me, from erectile dysfunction, which I don't have. This is a serious problem, not for me, but for other people. I think your country's going to win the World Cup. Okay. Good old Pelé. Sorry he became such a sort of clown at the end. Well, not a clown, just someone who's difficult to have as much respect for as maybe I should have done.
Yeah, because in this book he is a badass. Anyway, okay, I'll thank you very much, and thanks for listening, folks. If you can find it in your hearts, please give us a nice old rating on whichever you list, whatever app, wherever you get your podcasts. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, thank you very much. And if you could leave a review, God bless you. Thank you very much, folks. And we'll see you next week with the draft.
All right, take care. Bye bye.
Vim Ricebergen moves the ball into the center to Ricky Davis. Davis feeds Quinalian. Giorgio moves to his left. Shoots a grass cutter. Goal!
Last question. Thank you very much indeed.